All right, so welcome everyone. It's the start of the hour, so I'll just continue answering that question. Today, we're going to be testing Python with web services. This class is going to be ongoing as long as I can keep it going. My goal is to have a class 1 hour a day online every day, Monday through Friday, until I can't do it anymore or until I get sick of it. Several months at least. But the goal here is to take people who may have familiarity with Python, or even those who don't, to be able to test web services. And if we've exhausted the topic, we'll move on to other subjects. We'll also be exploring Python with Selenium or Appium or unit testing. We may also explore using server-side frameworks like Django or Flask for developing some of these services we want to test. But in general, this is just going to be very informal. I'm going to share my knowledge and in some cases learn with you guys. Sometimes I'll hope to learn before you. And anyway, it looks like we've got quite a crowd. Let's see, 14 people on. So I'm going to get started. I'll share my screen. And oops, I didn't want to just, I want to share my whole screen, not just a single file. Okay. So now you should see, I have a text editor open that says testing web services with Python. Does everyone see that?
Yeah.
Yes, we see.
Okay. So our first goal today is setting up a Python development environment. And many computers, Mac and Linux for sure, have a version of Python installed, but you might have Python version 2, right? So Python 2.7 or something like that, 2.x. What we want to do is make sure everyone has Python 3.x. The latest is 3.8.2, I think. I think that's what I just installed this morning. Yeah. And then I also have, so I have user bin Python. By the way, do you see my terminal here where I'm entering Python-v?
Yes.
Okay. So you can see I have two different versions of Python. I have Python 2 and Python 3. Now, for the most part, they're similar. There's a few differences. If I can manage to type a 3 without holding the shift key down, you'll see I've got Python 3 installed, and I can do print hi. Now, for those of you familiar with Python 2, you can do print hi without parentheses. And that's probably the biggest difference between Python 2 and Python 3. By biggest, not big in terms of the amount of change, but in the number of modules it affected. But there's been a slow migration over the last 10 years or so for upgrading to Python 3. But we're definitely going to use Python 3 in this class. So for those of you who are new, do you have Python installed? I'm going to bring up the Zoom chat, but we can also bring up the Slack as well. And let me go ahead and introduce. So we have the Slack channel. Let's see. I need to look at the participants. Mona or Sala, are you guys on the Slack channel?
Yes.
Okay. Can you send the link to the Slack channel into the Zoom group chat so those who want to can use Slack to communicate ongoing, whether the class is running or not? All right.
Okay.
So yeah, I set up oneshore.slack.com. Set this up recently, or rather I set it up a long time ago and I haven't used it for a while. But the class you want to join is, or the channel you want to join is training Python test. Oops, and I spelled it wrong, ignore that. Training Python test. All right, so we'll have Slack up as kind of a back channel if you have trouble communicating on Zoom. Yeah, I think you need to ask for an invite to the channel, Mohammed.
Okay.
And like I said at the beginning, this coordination, the technical difficulties, it's new for me.
Yeah.
Okay, so training Python test. If it was created as a private channel, oh, okay, I've got Parth joined, so it's definitely not a private channel. but go ahead and search for that. And if anyone else can send Mohammed an invite to that, that'd be great. And we'll just continue while we're going through that. What I wanted to ask was, and the reason I wanted to get the chat up is so I could see everyone and say, who has Python 3 installed and who doesn't, or who doesn't know? This is our first goal, to get everyone so that they have Python installed. Okay, Shiva does not have it. Srinivas does. Abhishek, all right, you've got it. Parth, Mohammed, Navina, great. Okay, so Khalid, okay, so a few of you who don't, for those of you who don't, do you have Windows or Mac or Linux? I can go through. So Sky, Windows. So the easiest way on Windows is to just go to python.org and download the installer. And it should come up here. Go to downloads, it'll pop up automatically, but it'll give you the option for Windows. And you just get the latest release, run the MSI or EXE, whatever installer it is that you need. And it'll take you, a minute to download and install that, and I'll keep talking. Wow. On Mac, you can do the same thing. So there's three options. On Mac, you can download it from python.org or elsewhere. There's other places. Another Python installer that I will recommend for Windows users for the data science class tomorrow is the Anaconda. Just search Google for Anaconda. That's a Python installer and library management tool. It's an alternate release of Python, I guess, but on Windows, the data science tools are built easier with Python, so that makes or built easier with Anaconda. On Mac, you can just use Homebrew. You can just do brew install Python, like so. Brew install Python 3, I think will work as well, but I think the latest version by default will be the latest version of Python 3. Either 3.7 or 3.8, which both are fine. The other thing you can do is use PyEnv. That's a way you can install multiple versions of Python, and that's what I'll actually do. I'll take just a minute to show how to do that with Homebrew. But in short, you just do brew install PyEnv and PyEnv virtual env, like that. So virtual environments are Python's way of maintaining different versions of packages for different projects. And as we get more advanced, we'll delve into using PyEnv and using virtual environments to manage your utilities, so you don't have to carry a heavyweight bundle of requirements. Now, if you've used Juby, or if you've used Ruby gems are very similar to setting your requirements for PyEnv. For Node.js, NPM, and your node modules is a similar way of doing that. For Java, if you've used Maven or Gradle for handling your dependencies, it does that, but it doesn't store them locally. Well, it stores the cached repository on your M2 directory. But anyway, it's just different ways of managing versions of Python with versions of the different library dependencies. And we're only going to look at one dependency today, and that's the requests module. Now in the cloud, you actually, if you're having trouble installing Python, don't worry about that today. You can still follow along. You can go to Replit. You can install Gitpod, but that takes too long, I found out, at least with slow bandwidth. But I'm posting a link into the Zoom chat. I'll post it into the Slack as well. The Replit, and there's several others. You can actually, if you go to python.org, there's an online Python editor that you can use. I like the Replit one for examples. And it's kind of like Pastebin or JS Fiddle or something. But anyway, here's Replit, and you can see I can do print hello class here, and I've got this file, and I run it, and you see that hello class go away. I don't need your help text. Okay, hello class appears in here. So we've got 3 columns here. This isn't quite an IDE, but it's fancier than just an online interpreter. I've got my main.py. I can add another file. and I can print hello and run that. It may be running main. Okay, so it looks like it automatically runs main. But I can import hello. And here's what I'll do is I'll make a function. Now, in Python, it looks like I'm going to use replit as my example for now. So in Python, you create a function with def, def, as you see here. And I can call it whatever I want. I'll call it hello. And then parentheses is the arguments. We're not going to take it. Well, let's add an argument here. So hello name, name in parentheses. So hello is my function name. Name. Let's make this more your name to make that a little more clear. And then colon as a start. Now in Python, unlike most other languages, indentation, spaces are relevant. You automatically indent. You don't use parentheses or brackets or anything like you do in C or Java or JavaScript. In Ruby, they're sometimes optional. But to create a function, what I want to do is I want it to print hello and then your name. Really simple, right? And then in main, what we'll do, and I'm not even sure how this works. I probably need to do import dot hello. Now I can print, yeah. I wanted to remember if my function was called hello or not. All right. So in main, I will just call hello. That's all I want to do. Oop. Oh, thank you for muting that. Maybe this isn't going to work. All right. So I'm gonna, that's replit. I'll figure that out in a bit. Let's hop back over to my command line. All right. So once you have Python installed, right, you can brew install Python on a Mac. And I was just kind of filling time there. For those of you who didn't have Python, do you now have it installed? Or at least have an online editor? Great, Shiva's got it. I'll check the Slack channel as well. All right, Sky, Khalid. Sounds good, everyone's got it. Okay. So you can see it's already installed for mine. And I can do which Python. And it goes to there. So I'm going to do Python -v. I've got -V is version. I've got Python 3.8.2. If you can open a command prompt and do that, great. If not, you may need to open an interpreter. I'm thinking on Windows by clicking on the icon. Another way you can do that, you would need to set an environment variable. We're not going to go through that today. We're just going to jump in. So I just want to use the Python interactive interpreter, or REPL, the read, edit part, or what does REPL stand for? REPL means read, evaluate, print loop. Ah, that's right. What it does is it's an interactive interpreter, right? If I do print hi, it prints hi. And what I want to do here is I just want to explore a few things. I want to create a function, right? I'm going to create my function called hello. And I'm actually going to cheat. So, well, I'm not going to cheat. I'll show those of you who have it installed. Python comes with a package installer tool called pip. If you have Python 2 and Python 3, it might be called pip 3. So check this out. This should be 20 dot whatever. Okay. So you can see my pip version is coming from my PyEnv, my virtual environment, 3.8.2, which is good. This is the version I'm using, so we're all good. But if your pip version doesn't match, say I was trying to use my Python 2 pip installer. Okay, so I don't have that set up right now. But anyway, so you can do pip or pip3 install BPython. This is going to make your life in the interactive Python easier. There's also IPython and some other tools, but when I type Python, it gives me my interactive shell. But when I type BPython now, oops, this is an alternate interactive shell. Now, BPython has a bunch of other features. You can see I have this help documentation, but now when I type a command, no semicolons in Python, now I can see what we have, right? I can do get environment setting. I don't know. All right. But anyway, BPython or IPython, they're very similar. Give you these hints in the command line. Yes.
Sorry for interruption. But for PEEP, I didn't get what is the usage of it. It's like package manager or?
Yeah, pip is the Python package manager. It'll find anything on PyPy.
Okay.
So it's the package management, the installer for all your dependencies.
It's like npm in Node.js, right?
Right on. Yeah, I thought I did mention that, but if not, yeah, it's like npm and Node.js. So if I want to install a package, let's go ahead and install the package we're going to use. It's called requests. This is a REST request, an HTTP library. You can see it's already installed on mine. It says requirements already satisfied. But if you haven't installed, you can try something else. Like for instance, anyone coming from a testing background have used Selenium in the past?
Yeah, I think all of us, most of us.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Most of you probably are. So Selenium, you can install the Selenium, and then you can do from Selenium import WebDriver. Has anyone used Selenium with Python before, or with other languages like Java or JavaScript?
Java.
Yeah.
Java, okay. So it works very similar, just different style of language bindings. Anyway, so going back to my BPython, this is definitely going to be worth installing for you guys, right? So now I can do like from Selenium import WebDriver. And then I can see what it's giving me hints, right? So I could do WebDriver.desired capabilities, WebDriver.chrome. And then I can do equals new. Can I do, oh, no, I would need to import, I could do
.chrome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it launches Chrome. And then I can do driver.get oneshore.com/training. This is the, rather than sending you messages in LinkedIn to everyone, and you can kind of see it. Can you see it behind my terminal? I don't know. I have it some level of transparency. But anyway, I'm working on, rather than sending you guys a million different emails and LinkedIn messages, I'll just say, hey, go to OneShore Training, click register for a course. The register button doesn't work yet, and there's nothing wired up behind it. Anyway, so that's how you can use Selenium with Python, right? And the great thing is that now it's like an IDE in that it will give you hints, right? If I do find, oh, I have find element by link text or whatever. And I can look for ones that have register. This is not a Python class, or not a Selenium class, but I thought for those of you interested in Selenium, this is a great way to get you used to using the Python REPL, or in this case, the BPython features that give you these code hints, just like the autocomplete you'll experience in Visual Studio or IntelliJ or Eclipse. All right, so Now, I guess the next question I forgot to ask, how many of you are not familiar with Python, that you've either just barely scratched the surface with it or you've never used Python before?
Never used Python before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even I never used Python. I
Yeah.
used Java with Selenium.
All right. We'll do a quick intro to Python features, but since you guys all seem to, well, let me ask, has anyone not programmed at all or is very, very new to programming? Talking about things like functions and expressions and classes. Does that make sense to everyone?
I have
Yeah.
basics with Java only.
Okay.
Everyone has some basic idea.
But yeah, if you know what a variable is, you know what a loop is, you know what a function is, I don't need to go through those. But when I say, like when I did before, when I said, I want to create a function, right?
Yeah,
that makes sense. So that def
sense.
defines a function. The greeting is the function name, and the parentheses is the arguments. That all makes sense to everyone.
yeah,
right?
I mean, like if we can relate something to Java, like I mean, if while
Okay.
explaining, it
Yeah.
would help us, or else.
Yeah, I don't want to be
maybe
Java
something.
specific, but if most of you
Yeah,
understand Java, yeah, let's go ahead and use that analogy. So to create a variable in Java, you need to specify its type, right? You need to specify string, foo equals bar, or something like that. In Python, Python has types, but like JavaScript or Ruby, it's dynamically typed. Sometimes that means that it does something unexpected. But with Python, unlike JavaScript, it's usually pretty consistent. So instead of a string, if I want to create a variable, I just do foo equals bar, using these standard, I don't know, not even words, but are commonly used in programming tutorials. And then I can print foo. So that's a variable, right? And foo can, it can change. I can change it to a float, right? And then foo is now 2. And I don't even have to print it, as you see. I can just do that. I can create an expression, foo equals, foo plus foo. Or in the case you saw, I did plus equals 1. That's a shorthand that you might be familiar with from Java or C or whatever. But I can do foo equals foo plus foo, and that'll tell us how much is foo going to be? 4, right? So that's an expression. I can also do expressions by themselves, and it will return a value, right? 3 plus 3 is 6. True, not true, capital T. It's tricky when I switch between languages every day, but I think that's good addition. I can also do true is equal to, you use double equal for comparison, false, or 7 is equal to 3 plus 4, that's true. True and false with a capital letter are constants. Now you have null. You have null in Java. In Ruby, you have nil. In Python, you have none, right? So if I can do x equals, okay, I'm trying to get x equals none. You have to set it explicitly. Then we have x, it's empty. I'm not going to worry about that. So we have the types. We have none type. We have true and false, which are our Boolean types. We have strings and we have numbers. And as you saw with here, 1.0 plus 1, you can mix floating point and integer numbers as well. So that's talking about the main variable types. You also have functions to define, and you also have classes. So let's go ahead and create our first class in Python, right? Why does it keep doing that? All right, well, you can see it, right? So class, let's make a class called animal. Let's keep it easy, class dog. So I define my class, and I could also say class extends object. I don't know if that is syntactical Python, but anyway, I can do a class dog, right? And I can have variables, legs equals 4, tail equals true, and so forth. And then I can do I can do spot equals dog or new dog. You know what? I'm drawing a blank here on how to create it in Python. That's the instantiate class in Python. Can you believe I have to Google it in order to teach? Defining a class. This is giving away my secret. Instantiate. Yeah, unfortunately, bpython does not work in Windows. Named all right. I am going to skip over that right now because I'm just drawing a blank there. Yeah, that should have worked. Did it not create the dog class? All right, I did something wrong. I've got a typo when I created my class. Shiva, where you see the pip version error, well, it's not an error, it's a warning. It just wants you to upgrade. You can do that. It happens all the time. But as long as you do it once a year or so, pip will probably be fine. But yeah, you just do pip install -upgrade pip, and it will do that. I did that the same thing. Okay, so I don't know what I did wrong with the class, but we're not going to worry about classes right now. What we want to do next is we want to mess around with requests, right? This is supposed to be testing web services, so let's create a web service. Now, import requests. Now, I'll open up another tab so you can see this. Did everyone do pip install requests like so? If not, go ahead and take a minute and to do that. A nice thing about bpython is you can do that right in here. Maybe not. Maybe that's IPython. I've been mixing too many things. So requests get. So I'm making a get request as opposed to a post. You can see here I did this earlier, and you can get a URL. You can pick any URL, google.com, oneshore.com. I've been jumping around. So once you've done pip install requests, go into your editor and do import requests, and then do request.get. Pick your favorite URL, and you should get the response is response 200. Everyone following along with that? Are you able to import requests and actually use it? This means that this web page is up. If I go to another web page, gave me a connection there. I can't find that URL. But if I go to oneshore.com and then I put a URL that doesn't exist, I hope, it's going to give me a response 404, file not found, instead of 200, which is succeeded. Now, when I talk about these response status codes, does that make sense? Because the next thing we should probably talk about for testing REST APIs is HTTP, the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, which is what all web pages use. Now, there's other things built on top of it, like WebSockets, but when you're testing web services, you're testing at the HTTP layer. You're testing the text being sent back and forth between the browser and the server, rather than testing the rendered output within a browser, right? Okay, I see a lot of yeses in there. Let me check the Slack channel to make sure everyone's good. Okay, Mohammed understands APIs. Great. So every response has, every request and response have three things. They have the header, they have the initiative line, and then they have optionally a body. So in the response header, or not the response, yeah, I guess the response header includes the status code. So another thing we can do is looking at it outside of requests. Have y'all used a program called curl, C-U-R-L? So if you do curl-I, same thing. If I can type google.com, you can see I get this here, HTTP/2. That's the HTTP protocol /version2. A lot of sites still use HTTP 1.1. And then we have the status code 301. 301 means redirect. If I go back to oneshore.com, it'll give me a 200. There you see. And then it has, in this case, I have some headers like the date and whatnot that Google's not returning right there. But anyway, you have the header, and then you have headers, and then you have the response body, which, you know, the -I is just giving me the information. If we don't use the -I, you can see it's just the HTML being sent back as opposed to all the header information. So that's the status codes and the headers. Now, hopping back into requests, we can see that we can get a URL. So let's go ahead and check this out. So the next thing we need to do is we need to capture that response. So I'm going to do response equals requests.get and just pick any URL. Now I have a response, and my response to string, for those of you Java, is 200. I can get that information with status code, and it returns the 200. I can also get the body with response.text, and you can see here's the HTML output, the raw HTML output. I could then build a browser that renders this, or a parsing tool that scrapes the content or something like that. But anyway, everyone's still following along? Have you been able to make a request with to make a request with gets and to see the response? Can I get some thumbs up or some yeses? All right. Okay. Yeah, Postman is another great tool, and we'll probably use Postman along with requests. Yeah, it should move much quicker, and I've still got this this orphaned Chrome window from when I launched Selenium. All right, so you can also do request.post, put, head, or delete. Now web services will be using all of these. They also might have patch or some other command. And you can see requests helps me out because I can now look, or bpython helps me out by telling me what methods are available. So if everyone's ready, let's go ahead and explore an API that I haven't had time to even get to. And by the way, you can do the same thing here if you're following along in REPL. And this is actually creating a file. And then I print requests, or oops. And see, I get response 200. So that's another way to work with it if you don't have it installed locally. But it sounds like everyone's good for that. So the next thing we can do is let's look at the Star Wars API. If you go to swappy, SWAPI.co. This is the Star Wars API. And I've seen this used for other training courses, so I thought this was pretty cool. So you can see here, we have an API, and we can get results. So here's our base URL, /people/1 or /planets or starships. So let's go ahead and try this. Requests.get, and then we'll enter our base URL. And then I don't know. We'll just do it here like this, people/1, and it looks like it should give me a response with Luke Skywalker, right? Yeah, and it's going to return this JSON output. I'm having trouble here with that. Okay, oh, Python. There we go. That doesn't look to be working. Is anyone else having trouble accessing this?
I can't even open the web page in my browser. It's giving the application error.
To open the SWAPI.co?
Correct.
Maybe it's possible that this website went down right when we started testing. That's unheard of for me, but maybe we can mirror it. Wow, application error. You've got to be kidding me. All right, so that's why it's behaving weirdly, because this site is down. Okay, I have a backup plan. What is it? Restful Booker. All right. So if you go to this site, restfulbooker.herokuapp.com, we'll use this API. I posted that in the Zoom. I'll post it in the Slack as well. And by the way, did Oscar get into the Slack yet?
Aaron,
Yeah.
I need to receive a mail confirmation in my mailbox because I didn't see anything.
So you didn't get the invite in your email, Oscar?
No, not yet.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Okay, you can add your email in the chat and I can send you an invitation.
All right. Thanks.
Welcome.
Okay. It looks like Shashank also.
Okay.
I'll just do it right now.
Aaron, I kind of lost when I was installing the Python. Could you please show me how you were running the Python? Because request
yeah.
it, kind of lost it there, so I don't want to interrupt everyone as well.
Okay, sure. Since we're trying to get everyone to Slack, so pip install requests.
Yeah,
pip should be installed with Python 3. With Python 2, you do need to use setup tools to install pip, but you just type pip install requests. That's all you need to do. Unless you've got a problem, then that might work. Now, if it's not working, try pip 3 install requests, because pip might be pointing to a Python 2 version on your machine.
Okay.
That's a possibility. And if not, I suggest just go to the replit URL here, and go ahead and follow along online today, and hopefully you can get your Python and pip set up.
Sure. I think pip
Another time.
3 is installed, and then after I install it, do you recommend just to request it, like a request.get, and then get the response from any URL? What is the next step? I kind of lost it.
Yeah, sure. So that's what we're about to do. We're about to try and use a website. The Star Wars API literally went down while we were in class. I hope none of you guys brought it down, but anyway. So Restful Booker is a simpler API, but it's enough to get us by for today. So what I want you to do is go to the Restful Booker API docs, and you can actually, this is kind of a cool app. You can very easily download and deploy this to run locally, so you can work on it offline. And I've done a course where it was actually with Java using Unirest framework. I did a course with Java showing how you can use the Restful Booker locally, but that's neither here nor there. There's a Docker image as short center. Anyway, so the URL is, you can see here, it gives an example using curl. So we'll go ahead and try that with curl from the command line. And I'm just going to paste what they have there. And you can see this auth endpoint returns a token as JSON. We're going to do the same thing in Python using requests. So with curl, you can see it's a little more explicit. It's nice for ad hoc, but curl's not good for writing tests because we can save a test. Now today, we're not actually even going to get to writing a test. I wanted to make sure everyone has Perl installed and that we've got the requests module and we get used to it. Next week, we will get to know PyTest and explore that. Anyway, so hopping back into my Python environment. Okay, once I have Python installed, I've got requests, and you can just check it. If you just do requests by itself, it should be a module. If you don't have it, and you've installed it with pip, you should be able to do import requests. It shouldn't give you an error. If you try and import something that doesn't exist, it'll give you an error. So if you know you can import, if the import requests command works fine by itself without an error, then you know it's installed with pip. All right, so you do requests.get. And now we're going to point to this other URL. We're going to go to this Restful Booker auth. What this is doing, and this is probably the trickiest part and the most useful part of using a web service in combination with a GUI automation tool like Selenium, because every test you write may start with go to the login page, enter the username, enter the password, click the login button, verify you are now on whatever expected page you are, right? Has anyone written Selenium tests that look like that? And there's a whole bunch of tests that either inherit those steps or are dependent on that working. What have we got here, Oscar? Regress.in. Test your front end against a real API. Yeah, that looks good, but since I haven't looked at that, I'm going to go ahead and stick with the Restful Booker for now. We might explore that further, Oscar, in future sessions because it's probably more complex than this Restful Booker. Anyway, so we just want to grab that auth URL and do rest.get or requests.get this URL, restfulbooker.herokuapp.com/auth. And you can see a 404.
I got 404 too.
Oh, well, you should, because we need to post. So do request.post. That's why we decided to switch. So I want to do response equals request.post. And there we go. Now if I type my response, what we're doing is we're sending a post request instead of a get request. A get request only gets a URL. A post request can include a body with content that it sends. And you can see my response is status code is 200. and my response.text said bad credentials. That's fine. You can also see that it is JSON, so it returns a JSON object. So, and then I can actually look at my result, and I can see the reason. Nope, okay. I'm not going to worry about that right now. So the next step we've got to do, let's look at this documentation here. We need to do a couple things. We need to add a header for application JSON content type. So and something else you can see is you can type dir in Python and find out the methods on the properties and methods on request.get. So we've got here these underscore by convention, and underscore double underscore one is a magic method or a private if it starts with an underscore. Let's look at the requests documentation actually. All right. So we do request.get, we post, and then we can pass in data as a dictionary. So what did it ask us here? It asks us to pass in a dictionary of, or rather JSON, but it'll convert the JSON, or convert the dictionary to JSON with username and password. So we do request.post. There we go. Response equals request.post. And then we want data equals username and password. Username admin and password 12, password 123. Brackets, close parentheses. Okay, there we go. And oops, I made another mistake. It's request.post, not get. Whoops. Response equals rest.post, the URL, and then the data. Got something wrong here.
There should be a semicolon after password.
What's that?
Semicolon after password.
Oh, thank you. All right. Somehow I got an extra parenthesis in there too, just for fun. I think this is a bpython issue. Okay, looks like I've got it properly. bpython is misbehaving for me, so so I can see my response status code 200. That's a good sign. I can see my text. I have my token. Now, the next thing I need to do, and many sites do this, they will give you an authentication token. It can be put in one of several places. It can be put in a cookie. It can be sent as a header, like you might have an authentication token header, or it can be sent as a parameter. So let's look at this one. Once we've authenticated, we can then get bookings. So I think to create a booking is what we need a token to do. So you can see here that, well, maybe I don't need, maybe I only need it to update a booking. So let's create a booking. It turns out we don't need authentication for this. That's unusual. By the way, look at this URL, this MW Test Consultancy. That's not the URL we want. It's the restfulbooker.heroku app. So same thing, what we want to do here. And I think what I'm going to do is switch to a file. So I'm going to use Vim. Booker.py. All right. And then I'm going to create this dictionary of booking. And then I'm going to do requests.post. And I can see through my screen. I don't know if you can, but let's grab this. So the endpoint here is booking. So I'm posting to this URL, and I'm passing content type application date, JSON, which is not necessarily with requests. It will interpret a dictionary as that. So when I do data equals, but showing you the request documentation. There's also a .json method. Oh no, that's for the response. JSON equals, that's what it is. So you can pass in JSON either as a dictionary, and if you pass in JSON, it will automatically, or as a text string with proper escaping. So we can do JSON equals booking. What happened here? Function share. Oh, because Vim doesn't have my console bindings. So, all right. So response equals request.post. All right, I'm having trouble see this. Okay. And then I can print response, print, oops, and I need to remember parentheses, and then print response.text. So that way I can now, what I'm going to do is I've got the code and I can execute it as a file without having to retype it every time. And I just grabbed the content. It's expecting these values. And I can invoke this program here, like so.
Aaron, the uppercase in the
oh, yep, thank you. You've probably got there ahead of me. All right, now we're looking good. Okay, so we've got a response with booking ID 13. So let's hop back over here and let's do response equals request dot get, and oops, I just wanted the URL. So when I call get on this booking endpoint, it will return me the most recent booking I made here. Response.text. It's first name, Jim Brown, total price, deposit. I don't even remember. Is that? Yep, that's right. I can go ahead and make another request, right? I want to make a booking for myself. Apparently this is a hotel booking example. So first name, last name, total price, I get a discount. I'm going to only be charged $57. Deposit paid, true. And I'm optimistic. I'm feeling like I'm going to be able to travel tomorrow. Sure, we'll stay for, and I don't need any additional needs. All right, so I'm creating a new booking, right? And this is what you would do in your test. You would create objects or dictionaries or strings of your JSON and mirror the things, right? I could see a real world booking program say total price paid throws an exception because the price is actually $111 or whatever it says. That it's going to I'm testing hypothetically a condition here where it shouldn't let me book for this price, or maybe it wouldn't let me book for a date in the past. These are the type of scenarios you can test with your API testing much faster than you can through a Selenium test. So I'm going to post the booking, and it's going to be the same deal here. And rather than close that, I'll pop over here into another terminal, and I'll book. Now my booking, it reflects the response. JSON reflects my name, my price, my checkout dates. And I can go over here in my REPL. What do we get? Is it booking ID 19 as opposed to 14 for the last one? So, or 13, 19. This is mine. And then if I get response text, there's my booking. All right. I'm going to guess some of you other guys, someone else did 14 with Jim Brown. Anyone else enter one with their own name and get a booking with their own name and get an ID back that I can test out and see? Looks like no one has done it after me. Hey, Samia, yeah, I'm going to post the recording on YouTube. And since we're just about at the end, we'll go ahead and stop there. I'll point out that here's my YouTube channel. I posted my last 2 classes for the JavaScript and the Java on Tuesday and Monday. But here's the YouTube channel. I posted into the Zoom chat. I'll post it into the Slack as well, so you can reference it after the end of this meeting. But this is kind of getting started. I think we've accomplished the goal of having everyone in the class be able to get Java installed, install requests with pip, and get used to the API, just you doing a get and a post, being able to send JSON, view the response, text the status code, and so forth. We'll get more details and delve into more next week. Now, what I want to do next week is introduce PyTest so that we can actually write test cases, and maybe we can do some data-driven testing on this RESTful Booker example. If you have, yeah, Sky, we'll make sure. And sorry, Srinivas, if I did go a little too fast, but what I wanted to do now is for those of you who can stick around for a few minutes, if you want to give me some feedback, and this is what I've done with the other classes, is just let everyone take turns and say what they liked, what they would like to see in the class, if you had any specific challenges or whatever. So we'll go through, and let me bring up the participants list. And just go ahead and post in the chat, or go ahead and take turns speaking out loud. We'll start with Oscar, or Oscar. Do you have any feedback or anything you'd like to see going forward?
Related with API testing?
What's that?
Do you mean related with this API testing?
Yes. If you have a general comment as well, that's fine.
Okay. It's good for starting. Yeah, I think requests cover the basic request for API testing. It could be nice, maybe how to integrate a Postman collection with Python, maybe. But
Okay.
general, I think it was.
Let me take some notes.
Good.
Yeah, I think what we will try and do, probably won't get to it next week, but maybe the week after, we will do the same sort of things with Postman and see how that relates to using it with Python. Good feedback. Thanks, Oscar. Navena, do you have any comments, or are you just here to help me out?
Oh, I'm actually here to listen to the class
Okay,
and
great.
help you out. So
all right, well, will you give me some feedback then?
Sure. I have only one short notice. I think it would be a good idea to agree on which text editor will be using from now on, so everybody has the same text editor installed and ready on their computers before the class starts?
I try to be ambiguous about that, and I see Parth mentioned I would like to work in an IDE. So let's go ahead and say yes. Pycharm is the one to look for. I'll post that. It's based on IntelliJ from JetBrains. So if you want to look at Pycharm, let me first check. I don't know if that's actually free or not.
It is. I'm using it.
Okay, great.
We have
So
two versions.
yeah, I wanted to introduce everyone to the command line and the REPL today, and I knew we wouldn't get to making requests at all if we were trying to get everyone to install Pycharm. But yeah, going forward, if you guys want to install Pycharm, we can do our examples in that going forward. But I wanted to, especially with Python, IDEs are actually not that commonly used. But yeah, we'll continue to use it in the future. And you notice I was doing stuff through the REPL that would have been easier to, you know, create a file with until the end there when I got tired of retyping the same thing. Thanks for that feedback. Mohammed.
Can I give feedback? Oh, okay.
Oh, did you have another comment?
I'm Mona, but I have feedback. If anyone, no, I'm not Nivina. I'm Mona.
Oh, okay. Mona, was that Mona who talked about using the standard IDE then?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Go ahead, Mona.
Yeah, it was a good start for the beginning, and it was a good introduction. But if we are gonna to start from the scratch, let's do it as give introduction about the APIs. What is the difference between APIs, REST assured, SOAP? It's not for me. I'm familiar with all of this. But I think people also, I don't know if they are familiar with these concepts or no. And also, I don't know if they are expected to learn Python from the scratch, or you are expected from this. Because for me, I'm expecting a very advanced level, at least for me.
Okay.
But yes, I joined you today, and I found it started from the beginning, from very low level, from scratch. So let's do it as take it from the scratch for everything, you know.
Yeah, and that's kind of every class this week is just to getting started, just to taste, and then I have a couple things to do. Number one, get the signups organized so that it doesn't have to be through LinkedIn messages with everyone. And then number two, plot out a curriculum so that people can prepare in advance. But I just wanted to get everything started, introduce people, and get everyone set up with their development environment and their tools, and introduce, you know, as you've seen, even with the Java class, which no one does anymore, I want to introduce how to do things through the command line, because it is important in some cases. Now, rest assured, it's a great tool, but it's a Java program. So requests,
yeah, I know, but this class is related more for API testing. It doesn't matter for me. It's related to Python or Java or JavaScript. For me, at least, it doesn't matter which language I will use it, because it's just different syntax. And yeah,
the tactics for testing an
API. I'm very familiar with Java and JavaScript, and yeah, as I expected from Python, it's just different syntax. That's it. But yeah, I don't know if other people agree with my opinion or not.
Okay. Well, in the Monday Java class, we'll eventually get to using APIs with Selenium as well. But that's going to be a while because I'm starting at the beginning for everything. But you're right. The tactics are going to be the same, whether we're using Java or JavaScript or Python or Postman. So, and right now, go ahead.
Yeah, so for Java with Selenium, you will deep dive with the APIs also, or it will be for UI with Selenium?
So it's focusing on Selenium for now. It'll probably be a couple months before we get to delving into using APIs with Java in conjunction. For instance, once we've gone through all the basics of Selenium and introduced page objects and parallelization, then I'll talk about using APIs in Java to do things like log in and perform steps that can be done via the API instead of the UI, to use API testing in coordination with Selenium. But what I'm doing is I'm focusing on different topics with different languages. For instance, on Monday, it's Java. Tuesday will be JavaScript. Wednesday will be Python. And each of these classes is focusing on a different area of testing, at least at first. With the Monday class, we're focusing on getting started with Selenium because that seems to be the highest demand. On Tuesday, it's web app development with testing in relation and with Python in order to bring API testing to the front right away. That's what we're doing is with Python, starting with API testing. And we'll see how the classes progress. Like I've said, I plan on doing this indefinitely. It'll get more polished as I take care of some of these administrative tasks and with your help and others to clear away these getting started issues. But I think the strategy is to go day by day. Each day is going to focus on a language and, evolve into different topics over time. It may be months from now that we're going to be talking about creating Python web services or integrating web services with UI testing in Python. But Wednesdays will always be Python and Mondays will always be Java is the strategy that I'm going with.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
I may just briefly interrupt,
Sure.
just in case if it is needed to somehow interrogate all of us who are listening to these classes and to determine if we need any intro to APIs like Mona suggested or any other very basic concepts. It's very easy to make a Slack poll. So
that's a great idea.
If you want it, I volunteer.
I am happy you volunteered. So yeah, let's talk about this. So who needs an intro to using APIs? Who needs intro to Python, right? Those are two things we can ask right in the Slack channel. And if you want to create polls, that'd be great. And then another one, an open question. What other topics with Python do you want to cover? Or you can give your feedback, say, hey, what I really want to do is Python with Appium, for instance, or something like that. And that can help plan the curriculum long term.
Oh, yeah, hi Aaron, this is Abhishek.
Hey, Abhishek.
Yeah, so maybe I have, initially, maybe I joined a little bit late, I think so. 5 minutes late, I think I joined late.
Okay.
But yeah, most of the things were started, but I assume 3.7 was installed on my system.
Yeah.
But I think it wasn't when I started doing it with you. I think I'm facing some issues on the installation, but yeah, I think that I'll solve it after this call. But the main thing on the feedback thing, what I feel is mostly whenever you are explaining, right? Because see, most of the thing, I think all over the people who are here on the call, I think most of them knows Java better, I feel. Maybe my personal feedback with me is when you're explaining some functions like definitions or some loops or something, right? I was little bit confused. Why? Because in Java, we we call with like in terms of like methods or something else,
Mhm.
right? Methods, functions. But here, example, if you want to create a method, what exactly def word we need to use must. So I mean, those kind of things, I mean, if you put on to the while you're explaining, that would help us a lot. Like example, where to use what terminologies exactly in the Python.
All right.
I like mostly confused actually. And yeah, I mean, like maybe other topics with Python, I can say like mostly we can go with I mean, I'm more interested with the locust with Python, which is used mostly for performance of the API testing.
Okay. So
Right.
locust performance testing.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
interesting.
that's the very good tool actually.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've never used it.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I've used like JMeter and locust both, but locust is like more very good in terms of
Yeah,
horizontal and
it's
vertical.
scriptable, where JMeter
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
is with Groovy, but it's really a UI.
Yeah, I mean, like
tool.
compares
Yeah.
to like JMeter or anything, I think locust is very good in the market. What I see, but yeah, I mean, Python is the main for it.
Mhm.
What I'm getting out. I mean, what I'm expecting from this session actually to learn and use my skills
Okay.
over there. Yeah.
Yeah, we can look at doing that in the future. All right. Let's see who else. I think before Mona, I was about to ask Mohammed. So do you have feedback?
Hi everyone. Yeah, I just want to ask. I want to say the same thing about the people who just started, who doesn't know about APIs, no programming stuff. You can just put the links, for the sources. Don't. It will be helpful to don't waste the time, to the basics stuff, which the people can read there, watch something from there, and you can like more focus on the experience which you have and share that. I'm actually here for experience which you have. I have all courses for the Python API and other, to be honest. And I want to see how's your, how you are doing something from your perspective,
Okay. Thanks.
like that. Yeah. Thank you for the course. Yeah, and it's for me, Python is a new language, but I understand and no problem there. Just if you are using some commands, some things, if you will, post like some they are in a Slack, and we can follow.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Let's see who's next. Khaled.
Yep. Hi, everyone. First, I would like to thank you for providing this great course. And,
Welcome.
thanks for sharing this on LinkedIn. Sorry, today I wasn't that much into practicing what you're playing around. I just followed in the first two parts, and then I was stuck in one step for Python and importing the requests. I got error, and I was pulled in a different thing at my work.
Understandable.
I would I second Mohammed and Mona for the introduction prerequisite part. If this can be done like through a quick presentation, or if you can point us to some links, we can go through this. And as a part of housekeeping, if we can get everything installed before the meeting, so we are not like wasting everyone's time trying to get our environment ready for doing this. So you can send us ahead some links or anything to install before the meeting, but thanks so much for doing this. Mainly, currently we are doing more manual tests. It says my name is Khaled. I live in Canada since almost a year. Before this, in Egypt, and since I started here, it's mostly manual testing for Salesforce applications. But moving forward with the current situations, they are looking more to implement some other options for saving budget and all this stuff. So they are looking into automation objects. We have a lot of integration between Salesforce and SAP and different application using API. Mainly we are using Postman. So it will be good to dive more into this area. That's it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Darshan. Do you have comments or anything you'd like to see going forward?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for this course. And as Kali said, introduction would be helpful. And I'm more interested in learning automation, maybe using the Python or Java with Selenium. So.
Okay. Yeah, so if you want to attend the Java with Selenium class, that's Mondays at the same time. I can send you the link for that.
Yeah, sure. That will be of help.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I don't have any prior knowledge of any of these programming languages. I am from a different background, and I'm much interested in these courses, maybe Python or Java with Selenium, especially for automation.
Okay, great. Looking forward to working with you. Parth, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I told that working in some ID will be helpful.
Okay.
And sometimes we do mistake. If you include the mistakes that you tell, it will be helpful to correct me.
Yeah, I appreciate when you correct my mistakes too. Anything else?
No.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah.
Let's see. Salwa, did you have some comments?
No, for now, but the great thing today, I have no experience with Python. Also, I'm not ready until now with the environment setup. I open the browser and see the steps for installation, and also see the steps for integrating Python and Selenium. By the end, I will try to do today class. That was great for me.
Okay, good. I'm glad you found value in doing that together. And feel free to reach out on Slack or whatever if you run into other setup issues. My time is limited there, but since you're helping me, I'll definitely help you too. Let's see. Who else? Did I cover everyone? Oh,
Harun, just a small add-on, like to the feedback. Right. Just wanted to know, before the session starts, on the next session, whenever we are planning the next Wednesday, right? So if you just come up with some list, like what is expected in this session, what we will be learning at least. I mean, that will have at least some idea, like what exactly will be building up our skills by then. I mean, if we need to prepare anything within ourselves so that we explore some things before the session and join, then we can ask more questions.
Okay, great. So kind of
meetings will be more of discussions. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good idea. Srinivas. Did you have any comments?
Yeah, this is my first session attending on the Python. I don't have any prior experience on it. And it was very fast, quick enough, doing parallelly and understanding it. So it would be better, it was quite, if it can be reduced with a bit slow,
okay,
few seconds kind of it. So it would help me to understand the steps if it is.
All right.
Yeah, apart from that, like it would be like all the other people have given like the introduction of APIs or rest assured. So I don't have any prior knowledge on those. So it would be helpful how we are going with that.
Okay, sounds good. It sounds like what I could do is give you some documentation and some links to reference for setup for everyone, for those who didn't get set up, and for other courses going forward to provide that sort of information. I really like the idea of getting getting an assignment or at least an expectation of what's going to happen going forward, so we can have a discussion for those who can work in advance.
Yeah, I would love also if you gave us assignment to
okay.
to do for what we get today. That would
Okay.
be. Thank you.
Okay, so here's a quick assignment for you guys. Install Pycharm if you haven't. Write a script that uses the Restful Booker API to create a booking, to get that booking, and to delete that booking. In order to delete the booking, I believe you need to use authentication. How's that sound?
Sounds
good.
Creating booking, deleting.
Yeah. So I'm just going to write that. And that's create a Python script to create a booking, view that booking, and delete it.
So you have used VIM editor. So how about in Windows? What we need to use?
We're all going to use Pycharm going forward. That's an IDE.
Okay. So to do this assignment also we should use Pycharm?
It doesn't matter to me. Another thing I wanted to introduce going forward is how to use GitHub. I don't know if everyone's familiar, and if you have a public GitHub account, we can do that. And that's probably the way it'll be going forward, that I will have a repository, and you'll check out the repo with the specific lesson, and it'll have a README with a description, and then you can also send a pull request, and we can review it that way. Does that sound like a plan?
Actually, that works out. Yeah.
Okay, and let me post this. And I will send an email to everyone. And like I said, I'm just getting organized, and these administrative things that people like Mona and Navena are helping me with are really useful. But doing things like having a mailing list instead of communicating with everything on LinkedIn, automatically inviting people to the classes and being able to remove you from the meeting invite without doing that manually. These are the things that are taking all my time now. But once we get this sorted out, and have everyone working through GitHub and pull requests and all that administrative stuff, is going to fade into the background. It'll be a lot smoother. I appreciate your patience because things are kind of chaotic right now. But I figured, since there was so much interest, especially in the Java class on Monday, where we had nearly 100 people, we're going to probably exceed the limit and have to break the Java class apart. And I don't think I really have time for more than one training per day. But we'll figure out what to do. But I appreciate your patience, and this will get better going forward. Has everyone spoken? I think Sky, maybe I haven't heard from.
Yeah, hi Aaron, thanks for the opportunity. I don't have any new comments.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. And then Samia, did I get to you?
Hello. No.
Hello.
I think I need the introduction to Python because I'm just familiar with Java.
Okay.
I don't have a background for coding, but I started learning Java myself. I have the course. So I just need the introduction to Java, but I'm familiar with APIs because I make API testing with Postman, but it's just like a manual. Yeah.
How many people here are here because they want to know more about writing API tests and would prefer to be doing it in Java?
Me.
1, 2. All right.
Me too. I have tested the Java
So-
with Restful.
All right.
Yeah, maybe I don't like have the experience, but I want to like more explore on Python writing the API testing.
Okay. And who was that? Who said that they want to explore more with Python?
Abhishek PR.
Oh, okay.
Darshan.
Abhishek.
Yeah, I want.
Darshan. Okay.
Me too.
I can't tell everyone from the sound of your voice. So Abhishek.
Navin is also up for Python with API.
Okay, great. Okay. So yeah, I do want to continue the Python class, but maybe for those who are specifically interested in Java more, when we get to that in Java, that'll be more beneficial. I see also on the bottom, I missed you before. Dong, did you have any comments? No? Okay. All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming.
Yeah, one more thing. And
Yes.
is this a first session on Python?
This is the first session on Python.
I
and
think you are recording, so I missed almost half an hour initially. So is it possible to share the recording?
yes, I will. I will be posting it to YouTube later.
Yeah, okay, sure. And okay, I haven't used this Slack, so maybe I need to try this as well.
All right.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
All right.
Arun,
Thanks, Darshan.
maybe I just missed at the initial maybe introduction. I just wanted to know more about like what is OneShore and what you guys do exactly. I'm just
So OneShore
more
is
interested
just
on it.
my independent consulting company.
Okay.
I've spent the last 4 years actually not doing independent consulting, working with Sauce Labs as an employee and helping all of their customers do automation with Selenium and Appium. And now that I'm independent, I'm bringing OneShore back up. It's, if you go to the website, it was last updated in 2003 and it's full of broken links. That's another thing on my list of to-dos is to fix my website because I haven't used it in several years.
Okay. Yeah, great to know that. Yeah, thanks.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We will talk to you later and see you next week for this class. Or if you're in the Java class or another one as well, I'll see you for that.
Thanks.
Thank you, Arun.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Thank you. Bye.